The morning sun burned through the mist hanging over the SEAL training compound in Coronado. Rows of men stretched, their movements synchronized and purposeful. They loaded magazines with a familiar metallic click and meticulously cleaned their rifles. Then, an abrupt silence fell over the compound. A truck door slammed shut, echoing across the training grounds. From the driver's side, a figure emerged. A woman. Her name tag, stark against her fatigues, read Mendoza A. She was fresh from a joint task force overseas, a transfer into one of the most demanding training environments on the planet. Every head turned. The air, once filled with the sounds of preparation, was now thick with a different kind of tension. A low chuckle broke the silence. "Great. Another PR experiment," a corporal muttered to his buddy, just loud enough to be heard. The response came back with a snort of laughter. "Can she even lift the M249? Mendoza didn't react. Her face was a mask of professional indifference. She adjusted her plate carrier, feeling the familiar weight settle on her shoulders, slung her rifle, and walked with measured steps toward the armory. Her focus was absolute. Her world narrowed to the task ahead. Inside the armory, she found the range sergeant, a giant of a man with arms like tree trunks and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He looked her up and down, a skeptical glint in his eyes. "You're the new one?" he grunted, his voice a low rumble. "We'll see how long you last." He tossed a set of ear protection toward her, a dismissive flick of his wrist. His smirk widened when she snatched it out of the air with a single fluid motion, without even flinching. As she moved to the firing line and began to load her weapon, the other recruits stopped what they were doing to watch. The air was charged with condescending amusement. "Careful, sweetheart," one of them joked, leaning against a barrier. "Don't point that thing at your nails." Then, bang! The sharp crack of her rifle sliced through the morning air. Her first round hit the distant target dead center. A second later, bang! The second round landed in the exact same hole. A third, then a fourth, followed in quick succession, creating a perfect, tight cluster no larger than a quarter. The laughter that had filled the range just moments before faded into a heavy, stunned silence. Mendoza lowered her rifle slightly, turning her head just enough to make eye contact with the sergeant. Her voice was calm, steady, and utterly devoid of emotion. "Targets don't care about gender, Sergeant." That afternoon, the real test began. They were running the Hell Week simulation. 5 relentless miles of mud, cold water, and soul-crushing humiliation. When the time came to pair up, Mendoza was the last one standing. No one wanted her as a partner. So she took on the drills alone. They pushed heavy logs through the frigid surf, the waves crashing against them, trying to drag them under. They crawled under barbed wire, the sharp points tearing at their fatigues and scratching their skin. They carried heavy sandbags up steep, slippery hills until their muscles screamed in protest. With every step, every ounce of effort, the insults kept coming. "Can't keep up." "Told you this wasn't for you." But every taunt, every dismissive glance only hardened her resolve. She channeled their mockery into fuel, pushing herself harder, moving faster. Then, it happened. One of the men, the same one who had laughed the loudest that morning, slipped on a muddy incline and went down hard, his gear scattering. He lay there for a moment, winded and defeated. Without a word, Mendoza turned back. She grabbed his pack, hauled it onto her own shoulder, then reached down and pulled him to his feet. "Move your ass, soldier," she shouted, her voice cutting through his shock. He stared at her, stunned into silence. From that moment on, not a single word of mockery left his mouth. By the end of the day, the training ground was littered with collapsed recruits, their bodies and spirits broken. But Mendoza stood tall, trembling from exhaustion and cold, covered from head to toe in sand and mud, her rifle still held firmly in her hand. The instructors watched from a distance, their expressions unreadable. But one thing was clear: nobody was laughing anymore. A week later, it was time for the live-fire evaluation. This was where precision and instinct were everything. The range was hot, targets popping up at random distances, bullets flying. Suddenly, a critical malfunction. One of the trainees' rifles jammed, leaving him completely exposed in the middle of the active firing lane. Panic began to set in as the automated targets continued their deadly pop-up sequence. Before anyone else could even process the danger, Mendoza reacted. In a single fluid movement, she dropped to a prone position, her body low to the ground. She adjusted her scope with practiced speed, her breathing controlled. A precise single shot cracked through the air, hitting a steel target at 400 meters. The range went silent. Target neutralized. The immediate threat was gone. The head instructor, Chief Donovan, approached her slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel. He stopped beside her, looking from the neutralized target back to her. His voice was low, laced with a new, undeniable respect. "Where did you learn to shoot like that, Mendoza?" She didn't look up at him. Her eyes remained locked on the target line, peering through the glass of her scope. "My father was a Marine," she replied, her voice steady. "I learned to shoot before I learned to read." The next morning, the atmosphere in the mess hall was different. When Mendoza walked in, a hush fell over the room. The same men who had laughed at her, who had doubted her, slowly rose to their feet. One by one, they saluted. It wasn't a command. It was a sign of respect, earned through grit, skill, and an unbreakable will. From that day forward, no one ever called her the girl. They called her Operator Mendoza. And every time a new recruit showed up with a smirk and a misplaced sense of superiority, one of the veterans would quietly pull them aside and whisper, "Don't, you'll regret it." She had not only earned her place, she had redefined it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an update.